Tiffany, Sawubona, Alicia. Good morning, beautiful ladies. Guys, where is the time going? Passover is this weekend. Here. Taylor, great rising. Right, Alicia. I haven't gone to look for any. I actually got some in my deep freezer. But it ain't enough. That's probably a portion for one person. I'm gonna go look. Almost ready. Hey, okay, Tiffany. Okay. How them gardens coming along? Oh, y'all done tilling up that plot. There's a halal grocery store on that side. We might need to make a trip, Tiffany. Well, I'm on this side. Alicia might need to make a trip on this side. Kroger may have some. You right, Kroger? Trina, hey girl, hey, Veswabu. Look, y'all, for the longest time, well, I guess for the first couple of years, it took me a while to figure out what to use for bitter salad greens, right? When it tells you to eat the lamb with bitter herbs. But if you look at different translation, you can use bitter salad greens, like stuff I was already eating anyway, like on my salad, like arugula. So I know people get like horseradish and stuff like that. Okay, I can't do horseradish. That's just me. I was like, Father, it has to be. Is there not another way? Do I have to eat horseradish? Like, I just couldn't, right? So when I realized I did a little bit more research, and I'm like, oh, it's really mean just like salad? And arugula is considered salad green. So is kale, right? So that's just a FYI. Haven't gotten to my yard yet. This move has been kicking my butt. Okay. Wondering if I can eat during feast day or can I fast? You know what, Trina, that's a good question. Look, I thought about that, right? So, because I was about to start another long fast, but then I was like, ooh, Passover about to come up. And I was like, can we fast through Passover? I was like, I don't know. Then I started thinking about Judith, right? Because Judith fasted. So Judith was fasting 5 days a week, and she was eating on preparation day and the Sabbath day, right? But it also says she also did not fast on the feast days. Now, not that that's a rule. That's just that's what the lifestyle she adopted, right? Yeah. Whoo, Aliyah, peace and blessings. He said, peace and blessings, sister. Hope you had a great weekend. I did. It was great. That King Solomon Demon series shocked me all week. And I'm telling you, bruh, this human FaceTime we're having on the earth doesn't come close to what real life is. You better say it. Mom, shalom, shalom. Look, I told you, I listened to that jank multiple times. It's like, what? But listen, let me tell you, I was shocked and surprised by it, but I wasn't so shocked and surprised by it to say, this is a bunch of fiction. Simply, and I would say now I know some people that listen to it or read it, they was like, oh, you can go look You can read the comments in some of the other ones who's recorded it. And some people think, oh, that's just a bunch of fairy tale. But I would venture to say those people that say that, they have not had any kind of supernatural experience. Like, unless, I mean, people that have had encounters with otherworldly entities would believe that right off top. Like, whew, Shayla, yes. You listened to it twice already? Boy, it's so good. It's so good. Look, we ain't gonna get into that right now because I could tell you a couple things. By listening to that, I was like, Father, wait a minute, hold on now. Because this is saying is this, and if this is true, I might gonna need to have to try and test this, all right? Not that I want any kind of demons showing up, but there is definitely one of these things I can test. And I tested it. Okay. Probably the only person that know about it is my sister, Alicia. She said, girl, what? I said, girl, look. Okay, I ain't getting more into it because y'all gonna be to make me told y'all what it is. Okay, but just know Yahuwah is faithful and he's true. He will reveal things to you, and it's quite amazing. As you're ready to understand more and ready to experience more, not that you want to experience demonic attack or whatever, but if you know that there's something going on otherworldly in your atmosphere and you can't quite put your hand on it, but you know something is present. If you have wisdom from above and of what's going on here in our realm, you can kind of tap into that and take control of it. Yes, Christy, Grand Rising. I remember growing up and watched that Haitian voodoo movies called Zombies. Since then, I was afraid of people from other countries that use supernatural things. Oh yeah, but that's true too. People tap into all kinds of stuff. And when I realized that it was truly real, and some people, like the movies that have you all screwed up, for real. But people really do practice some of this stuff on the other side. Like some of the stuff you heard King Solomon talking about, they actually practice it on the other side, and they employ the help and the services of the dark forces or demons, right? People create... Boy, I could tell y'all some stuff. What people can create when they enlist the powers of darkness. Like, I'm not telling y'all to do that at all. Enlist the power of Yah and his angelic forces. Don't go in there tapping into that stuff, right? Like, seriously, like, look, a good example. Look, I mentioned it the other day. If you watch Doctor Strange, how the master, when she used the forbidden or the dark magic, she only used it to bring back and balance what the vagabonds had taken and was trying to control the world with, right? They was trying to open the gate for Dormammu, like CERN trying to, what CERN trying to do with the Hadron Collider. They counted all up as science and experiments. No, my G, you do some, talk to some of them people that's the one crazy working out there at CERN, and they leaving that place because they are messing around with stuff they should not be messing around with. They are trying to create a space. They're trying to bring the unseen world into the seen world, right? And they've done it. They're playing with dark matter and stuff like that. Some of the people have went crazy. There are some interviews. You can just go do a Google search or a YouTube search. Some people have their faces covered. They've like muffled their voice, but they're telling you some truth. When I was listening to it, boy, it made my skin crawl because I'm like, what are these people doing? Do they really know what they're doing? Or is all of this in the name of science? Or does somebody really know what they are doing? They even had TED Talks talking about this, right? And they did it in a joking manner. I sat there and I watched the TED Talk when it was, matter of fact, put in Hadron Collider. Put in CERN, Hadron Collider, TED Talk. Or just put in CERN, TED Talk. And a couple of things will come up. And that's the guy. And he was like, well, we need your help. I was like, bro, you don't need our help tapping into the unseen realm to bring in Dormammu. Look, that's the name off of Doctor Strange. But playing around with Satan or whatever you want to call them dark forces, Azazel, whoever, stop it. Leave them alone. You would chain them in a certain place for a certain reason, my G. That I don't know why people playing with this stuff. But yeah, hallelujah. The King Solomon, it make me shooketh down all in my shanana. But that stuff is real, right? Okay. And believe it or not, it's a lot of people that's been using that stuff. Uncle James Brown, good morning. Belinda Brown, Josiah, shalom, shalom. They are biting off too much more than they can chew, more than they can chew. And it's crazy. I'm just like, Father, listen here. Look, people is really playing with this stuff. All I need to know, I just need to know. Well, first of all, I need you to keep my family safe from being affected from all this stuff, all my family, all across the states. If we got any outside of the states, keep them safe too, even in their ignorance and not knowing what's going on. I was like, but if anything ever comes to my doorstep, I said, I'm gonna need to know how to handle this. If I need to even do anything, like I want to be aware, because like you can see stuff, you can sense things, right? Look, oh boy, it's a whole lot of stuff people can create. Remember how I was talking about the other day about shades is like living shadows. People, if they know what they're doing, they can create these things. Like literally, they can conjure up stuff. Y'all thought the Conjuring movie, stuff like that, you thought that was just a bunch of fiction and stuff. People can do this stuff for real. Nikki, happy beautiful day. Look, some of them are called over on the occultic side. Occultic simply means hidden, so don't be thrown off by the word. Simply understand what they say. They have hidden knowledge or hidden wisdom that they're using for other purposes. But they can create, it's called servitors. If you ever heard that word, yo. And it's sheesh. It's a lot of people in the, it's a lot of them that know about it and is using some of these things in the entertainment industry, but it's a lot of people not in the entertainment industry just walking around our neighborhoods that know some of this stuff, right, bruh? Look, I be walking down the street and sometimes like we'll be out with our kids. I'm like, listen, Father, look, I make sure we lock, cop, and ready to rock. Look, physical and supernatural. And we ain't going out of here unprepared. Not that trouble follows us or anything, but I be paying attention to stuff and I'm watching for things because I can sense things. And the people really know. First of all, I just want to thank the Most Holy that while we are locked into these physical bodies, he's also locked us to seeing the spiritual realm that's constantly in motion around us 24/7. Because some people would lose their mind if they saw everything that was going on. Wow. Like what we see, like I had a dream one time, right? I'll go ahead and get started because we're already at 7:25. But it was like I saw this world, but I saw the hidden world superimposed over this world. And it was all kind of activity, all kind of demonic activity, all kind of people who looked normal that were doing rogue stuff. Like if you could see, they were literally trying to rip up foundations of buildings. I shared it with my mom and my sister. This dream has been a few years ago now, but it was like I could see both worlds simultaneous, and I'm just looking around. I'm like, what is going on here? I'm like, Father, we have got to get out of this place, and it was crazy because I could see the unseen realm. What people were like, you can just look at somebody, but they could really have something going on unseen. It was like I could see all those things unseen that those people were doing and how out of pocket they were truly being. You look at it in a normal, they look just fine. Hey, how you doing? But no, they were friggin' monsters underneath. Like I said, what I remember specifically is that quite a few of them, and especially this one man and a woman, they were literally trying to rip the buildings from their foundation, like knocking stuff over, things that should be in place. They were trying to displace everything that had a foundation set, right? And I clearly understood it when I woke up. I'm like, clearly this is going on today. They trying to turn everything every which way. But yeah, y'all. But yeah, we're about to read some more about King Solomon. We're gonna finish reading some of this. So y'all ain't heard nothing yet. And a lot of this stuff, look, it's just a portion of some of the ancient manuscripts that we've been reading, y'all. I even share some of the other stuff with y'all. It'll blow your mind. Okay, so let's get started. Happy Monday, everybody. Happy Monday. It is March the 22nd, 2021, day 108 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets. Another 3-year consecutive day count. Look, we're on day 777. We are in 1 Samuel 7, 8, and 9. Then we're going to hop on over to the Legends of the Jews, pick up where we left off with King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. So let's go ahead and do this Shema before we get started here today. And the Shema is found in Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 3. Hear, therefore, O Israel, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily, as Yahuwah, the God of our fathers, has promised us in the land that flows with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, Yahuwah, our God, He is one God, and you shall love Yahuwah your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart, and you shall teach them diligently unto your children. You shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them on the posts of your house and on your gates. And Yahuwah commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear Yahuwah our God for our good always, that He might preserve us alive as it is at this day. And it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do all these commandments before Yahuwah our God as He has commanded us. And remember, y'all, you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. Remember, hand represents action. The frontlets between your eyes represent that what you got locked inside that dome of yours, your brain, thoughts, action. Thoughts drive action. Frontlets between your eyes, thoughts. Write them on your hand as a sign, action. Thoughts drive action. Remember that, right? Okay. We tend to begin to act out those things we ponder on. Think on things that are good. Okay, let's move. I got my screen over here. Let's move this one here. Okay. All right, y'all. Got your popcorn ready, y'all? Yeah. And when I share some of this stuff, it's definitely going to have to be on a Saturday or a Sunday, because I know that conversation going to get quite long. Okay. 1 Samuel chapter 7. So the men of Kiriath Jearim came to get the ark of Yahuwah. They took it to the hillside home of Abinadab and ordained Eleazar his son to be in charge of it. The ark remained in Kiriath Jearim for a long time, 20 years in all. During that time, all Israel mourned because it seemed Yahuwah had abandoned them. Then Samuel said to all the people of Israel, if you want to return to Yahuwah with all your heart, get rid of all your foreign gods and your images of Ashtaroth. Turn your hearts to Yahuwah and obey Him alone. Then He will rescue you from the Philistines. So the Israelites got rid of their images of Baal and Ashtaroth and worshiped only Yahuwah. Then Samuel told them, gather all of Israel to Mizpah, and I will pray to Yahuwah for you. So they gathered at Mizpah and in a great ceremony drew water from a well and poured it out before Yahuwah. They also went without food all day and confessed that they had sinned against Yahuwah. It was at Mizpah that Samuel became Israel's judge. When the Philistine rulers heard that Israel had gathered at Mizpah, they mobilized their army in advance. The Israelites were badly frightened when they learned that the Philistines were approaching. Don't stop pleading with Yahuwah our God to save us from the Philistines, they begged Samuel. So Samuel took a young lamb and offered it to Yahuwah as a whole burnt offering. He pleaded with Yahuwah to help Israel, and Yahuwah answered him. Just as Samuel was sacrificing a burnt offering, the Philistines arrived to attack Israel, but Yahuwah spoke with a mighty voice of thunder from heaven that day, and the Philistines were thrown into such confusion that the Israelites defeated them. The men of Israel chased them from Mizpah to a place below Beth-kar, slaughtering them all along the way. Samuel then took a large stone and placed it between the towns of Mizpah and Jeshna. He named it Ebenezer, which means the stone of help. For he said, up to this point, Yahuwah has helped us. So the Philistines were subdued and didn't invade Israel again for some time. And throughout Samuel's lifetime, Yahuwah's powerful hand was raised against the Philistines. Yahuwah's powerful hand, action. Yahuwah was dropping action on the Philistines. The Israelite villages near Ekron and Gath, The Israelite villages near Ekron and Gath that the Philistines had captured were restored to Israel, along with the rest of the territory that the Philistines had taken. And there was peace between Israel and the Amorites in those days. Samuel continued as Israel's judge for the rest of his life. Each year he traveled around, setting up his court first at Bethel, then at Gilgal, and then at Mizpah. He judged the people of Israel at each of these places. Then he would return to his home at Ramah, and he would hear cases there too. And Samuel built an altar to Yahuwah at Ramah. Next chapter, 1 Samuel chapter 8. As Samuel grew old, he appointed his sons to be judges over Israel. Joel and Abijah, his oldest sons, held court in Beersheba, but they were not like their father. They were greedy for money. How can you have Samuel as your father? Like the world's, everybody know that this man belongs to Yahuwah, right? And Yahuwah speaks to him. How can you have a father like Samuel and not be like him? Listen. Joel and Abijah, his oldest sons, held court in Beersheba, but they were not like their father, for they were greedy for money. They accepted bribes and perverted justice. Finally, all the elders of Israel met at Ramah to discuss the matter with Samuel. Look, they told him, you are now old and your sons are not like you. Give us a king to judge us like all the nations have. Samuel was displeased with their request and went to Yahuwah for guidance. Do everything they say to you, Yahuwah replied, for they are rejecting me, not you. They don't want me to be their king any longer. Ever since I brought them from Egypt, they have continually abandoned me and followed other gods. And now they are giving you the same treatment. Do as they ask, but solemnly warn them about the way a king will reign over them. So Samuel passed Yahuwah's warning to the people who were asking him for a king. This is how a king will reign over you, Samuel said. The king will draft your sons and assign them to his chariots and his charioteers, making them run before his chariots. Some will be generals and captains in his army. Some will be forced to plow in his fields and harvest his crops. Some will make his weapons and chariot equipment. The king will take your daughters from you and force them to cook and bake and make perfumes for him. He will take away the best of your fields and vineyards and olive groves and give them to his own officials. He will take 1/10 of your grain and your grape harvest and distribute it among his officers and attendants. He will take your male and female slaves and demand the finest of your cattle and donkey for his own use. He will demand 1/10 of your flocks, and you will be his slaves. When that day comes, you will beg for relief from this king you are demanding, but then Yahuwah will not help you. But the people refused to listen to Samuel's warning. Even so, we still want a king, they said. We want to be like the nations around us. Our king will judge us and lead us into battle. Like, who wants a king better than Yah? Like, I'll take Yah 24/7, Alex. There is no other choice. There is no other choice. So Samuel repeated to Yahuwah what the people had said, and Yahuwah replied, do as they say and give them a king. Then Samuel agreed and sent the people home. Last chapter for today, 1 Samuel chapter 9. There was a wealthy, influential man named Kish from the tribe of Benjamin. He was the son of Abiel, son of Zeror, the son of Bechorath, son of Aphiah of the tribe of Benjamin. His son Saul was the most handsome man in Israel, head and shoulders taller than anyone else in the land. One day, Kish's donkey strayed away, and he told Saul, take a servant with you and go look for the donkeys. So Saul took one of the servants and traveled through the hill country of Ephraim, the land of Shalishah, the Shalem area, and the entire land of Benjamin, but they could not find the donkeys anywhere. Finally, they entered the region of Zuph, and Saul said to his servant, let's go home. By now, my father will be more worried about us than about the donkeys. But the servant said, I've just thought of something. There is a man of Yahuwah who lives here in this town. He is held in high honor by all the people because everything he says comes true. Let's go find him. Perhaps he can tell us which way to go. But we don't have anything to offer him, Saul replied. Even our food is gone, and we don't have a thing to give him. Well, the servant said, I have one small silver piece. We can at least offer it to the man of Yahuwah and see what happens. In those days, if people wanted a message from Yahuwah, they would say, let's go and ask the seer, for prophets used to be called seers. All right, Saul agreed. Let's try it. So they started into the town where the man of Yahuwah lived. As they were climbing the hill to the town, they met some young women coming out to draw water. So Saul and his servant asked, is the seer here today? Yes, they replied. Stay right on this road. He is at the town gates. He's just arrived to take part in a public sacrifice up at the place of worship. Hurry and catch him before he goes up there to eat. The guests won't begin eating until he arrives to bless the food. Now, I know I say this all the time. Sacrifices are food. The people's getting together to have a cookout. Come on, family, bring your meat. You bring your meat. If y'all still eating meat, y'all get the analogy, what I'm saying, right? So a lot of times when we read it, we just glance over and saying, oh, they doing these sacrifices and rituals and dance around fire. No, people, they were cooking food. When you see sacrifices, unless it's a burnt offering, which is completely burnt up to nothingness, into vapors, nothing but ashes left, burnt offering, sweet smelling savior unto the most holy Yahuwah, right? Right. Everything else they ate. Let me read that again. Pay attention. Hold on. Let me see how far back up I gotta go. Okay. As they were climbing the hill to the town, they met some young women coming out to draw water. So Saul and his servant asked, is the seer here today? Yes, they replied. Stay right on this road. He is at the town gates. He has just arrived to take part in a public sacrifice up at the place of worship. Here we go. He just arrived to take part in a public sacrifice. All right. So it tells us, and when you see it, it always follows up with they're eating the sacrifice, right? Remember, think about it, if you go back to Leviticus, when they're cutting up the animal, who is this? I'm gonna show you how to clean the meat. That's what black people get this thing from, about cleaning their meat and washing everything, from Yahuwah. This is how, look, if you want to eat this, this is how you need to clean it. First of all, don't drink none of the blood, don't eat none of the fat, belong to me, burn it up, burn it all up, pour it out, burn up fat, all of it, just give it all to me, just burn it up, whatever. He said, but you don't eat this stuff, right? He said, then you take it and you wash it, right? So look, that's what black people get that from. We used to always do that, since Yahuwah taught us how to properly clean our food and eat it. Look. He has just arrived to take part in a public sacrifice up at the place of worship. Hurry and catch him before he goes up there to eat. The guests won't begin eating until he arrives to bless the food. Okay, let's keep going. Y'all got it. So they entered the town, and as they passed through the gates, Samuel was coming out toward them to go up to the place of worship. Now, Yahuwah had told Samuel the previous day, about this time tomorrow, I will send you a man from the land of Benjamin. Anoint him to be the leader of my people, Israel. He will rescue them from the Philistines, for I have looked down on my people in mercy and have heard their cry. When Samuel saw Saul, Yahuwah said, that's the man I told you about. He will rule my people. Just then, Saul approached Samuel at the gateway and asked, can you please tell me where the seer's house is? I am the seer, Samuel replied. Go up to the place of worship ahead of me. We will eat there together, and in the morning I will tell you what you want to know and send you on your way. And don't worry about those donkeys that were lost 3 days ago, for they have been found. And I am here to tell you what you and your family And I am here to tell you that you and your family are the focus of all of Israel's hopes. Saul replied, but I'm only from the tribe of Benjamin, the smallest tribe in Israel, and my family is the least important of all the families of that tribe. Why are you talking to me like this? Then Samuel brought Saul and his servant into the hall and placed them at the head of the table, honoring them above the 30 special guests. Samuel then instructed the cook to bring Saul the finest cut of meat, the piece that had been set aside for the guest of honor. So the cook brought in the meat and placed it before Saul. Who y'all think the cooks were? The cooks were the priests, right? The priests, the only ones that were allowed in a public setting to offer sacrifices or bring the family together. We have about to have family meeting, y'all. bust out the grills. That's how you roast the meat. That's all that was being said through the whole book of Leviticus when it's telling you how to do this. But for some reason, that teaching is all screwed and jacked up. It's all chopped and screwed when somebody else is teaching it who's not supposed to be teaching it, right? It's okay, y'all. Don't get me started on that today. All right, okay, look, okay. Then Samuel brought Saul and his servant to the hall and placed them at the head of the table, honoring them above the 30 special guests. Samuel then instructed the cook to bring Saul the finest cut of meat, the piece that had been set aside for the guests of honor. So the cook brought in the meat and placed it before Saul. Go ahead and eat it, Samuel said. I was saving it for you even before I invited these others. So Saul ate with Samuel that day. When they came down from the place of worship and returned to town, Samuel took Saul up to the roof of the house and prepared a bed for him there. At daybreak the next morning, Samuel called to Saul, "Get up. It is time you are on your way." So Saul got ready, and he and Samuel left the house together. When they reached the edge of town, Samuel told Saul to send his servant on ahead. After the servant was gone, Samuel said, "Stay here, for I have received a special message for you from Yahuwah." And that is where we pause today, right there on that. And we're about to pick up where we left off in the Legends of the Jews. Well, I know, right? Look, them black folk out there cooking that food. All right, y'all. So we're going to pick up Legends of the Jews, page 431. Where we at? We already at 30 minutes. Okay, 31 minutes. Imagine. Okay. Fourth chapter. Hold on, look. Hold on. Just in case I come across this again. I'll connect here. The word reconnoitre. If I come across it again, I got it today, y'all. All right. Anyway, we're in this section, the building of the temple. All right, page 431. Among the great achievements of Solomon, first place must be assigned to the superb temple built by him. He was long in doubt as to where he was to build it. A heavenly voice directed him to go to Mount Zion at night, excuse me, to a field owned by two brothers jointly. One of the brothers was a bachelor and poor. The other was blessed both with wealth and a large family of children. It was harvesting time. Under cover of night, the poor brother kept adding to the other's heap of grain, for although he was poor, he thought his brother needed more on the account of his large family. The rich brother, in the same clandestine way, added to the poor brother's store, thinking that though he had a family to support, the other was without means. This field, Solomon concluded, which had called forth so remarkable a manifestation of brotherly love, was the best site for the temple, and he bought it. Every detail of the equipment and ornamentation of the temple testifies to Solomon's rare wisdom. Next to the required furniture, he planted golden trees, which bore fruit all the time the building stood. When the enemy entered the temple, the fruit dropped from the trees, but they will put forth blossoms again when it is rebuilt in the days of the Messiah. Solomon was so assiduous that the erection of the temple took but 7 years, about half the time for the erection of the king's palace, in spite of the greater magnificence of the sanctuary. In this respect, he was superior of his father David, who first built a house for himself and then gave thought to a house for Yahuwah to dwell in. Indeed, it was Solomon's notorious work in connection with the temple that saved him from being reckoned by the sages as one of the impious kings, among whom his latter actions might properly have put him. Shalom, Joanne. We're going to read about some of these later actions. And you're going to see why some of the sages looked at Solomon like he was good for nothing, right? Look. According to the measure of zeal displayed by Solomon, were the help and favor shown him by Yahuwah. During the 7 years it took to build the temple, not a single workman died who was employed about it, nor even did a single one fall sick. And as the workmen were sound and robust from first to last, so the perfection of their tools remained unimpaired until the building stood complete. Thus, the work suffered no sort of interruption. After the dedication of the temple, however, the workmen died off, lest they should build similar structures for the heathen and their gods. Their wages they were to receive from Yahuwah in the world to come, and the master workman Hiram was rewarded by being permitted to reach paradise alive. The temple was finished in the month of Bul, now called Marheshwan, but the edifice stood closed for nearly a whole year because it was the will of Yahuwah that the dedication take place in the month of Abraham's birth. Meantime, the enemies of Solomon rejoiced maliciously. Was it not the son of Bathsheba, they said, who built the temple? How then could Yahuwah permit his Shekinah to rest upon it? When the consecration of the house took place and the fire came down from heaven, they recognized their mistake. The importance of the temple appeared at once, for the torrential rains which annually since the deluge had fallen for 40 days, beginning with the month of Marheshwan, for the first time failed to come, and thenceforward appeared no more. The joy of the people over the sanctuary was so great that they held the consecration ceremonies of the Day of Atonement. It contributed not a little to their ease of mind that a heavenly voice was heard to proclaim, "You all shall have a share in the world to come." The great house of prayer reflected honor not only on Solomon and the people, but also on King David. The following incident proves it. When the ark was about to be brought into the Holy of Holies, the door of the sacred chamber locked itself, and it was impossible to open it. Solomon prayed fervently to Yahuwah, but his entreaties had no effect until he pronounced the words, "Remember the good deeds of David thy servant, the Holy of Holies, open." I'm sorry. Let me go back. Solomon prayed fervently to Yahuwah, but his entreaties had no effect until he pronounced the words, "Remember the good deeds of David thy servant." The Holy of Holies then opened itself, and the enemies of David had to admit that Yahuwah had wholly forgiven his sin. In the execution of the temple work, a wish cherished by David was fulfilled. He was averse to having the gold, which he had taken as booty from the heathen places of worship during his campaigns, used for the sanctuary at Jerusalem, because he feared that the heathen would boast at the destruction of the temple that their gods were courageous and were taking revenge by wrecking the house of the Israelitish God. Fortunately, Solomon was so rich that there was no need to resort to the gold inherited from his father, and so David's wish was fulfilled. The throne of Solomon. Next to the temple in its magnificence, it is the throne of Solomon that perpetuates the name and the fame of the wise king. None before him and none after him could produce a work like None before him and none after him could produce a like work of art. And when the kings, his vassals, saw the magnificence of the throne, they fell down and praised Yahuwah. The throne was covered with fine gold from Ophir, studded with beryls, inlaid with marble, and jeweled with emeralds and rubies and pearls and all manner of gems. On each of its 6 steps, there were 2 golden lions and 2 golden eagles, a lion and an eagle to the left, and a lion and an eagle to the right, the pair standing face to face, so that the right paw of the lion was opposite to the left wing of the eagle, and his left paw opposite to the right wing of the eagle. The royal seat was at the top, which was round. On the first step leading to the seat crouched an ox, and opposite to him a lion. On the second, a wolf and a lamb. On the third, a leopard and a goat. On the fourth, perched an eagle and a peacock. On the fifth, a falcon and a cock. And on the sixth, a hawk and a sparrow, all made of gold. At the very top rested a dove, her claws set upon a hawk, to betoken that the time would come when all peoples and nations shall be delivered into the hands of Israel. Over the seat hung a golden candlestick with golden lamps, pomegranates, snuff dishes, censers, chains, and lilies. 7 branches extended from each side. On the arms to the right were the images of the 7 patriarchs of the world: Adam, Noah, Shem, Job, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And on the arms to the left, the images of the 7 pious men of the world: Kohath, Amram, Moses, Aaron, Eldad, Medad, and the prophet Hur. Attached to the top of the candlestick was a golden bowl filled with the purest olive oil to be used for the candlestick in the temple, and below a golden basin also filled with the purest olive oil for the candlestick over the throne. The basin bore the image of the high priest Eli. Those of his sons Hophni and Phinehas were on the 2 faucets protruding from the basin, and those of Nadab and Abihu on the 2 tubes connection to the faucets with the basin. On the upper part of the throne stood 70 golden chairs for the members of the Sanhedrin, and 2 more for the high priest and his vicar. I think it's vicar. Right. I'm thinking about it. The vicar. Oh, yeah. Okay. On the upper part of the throne stood 70 golden chairs for the members of the Sanhedrin, and 2 more for the high priest and his vicar. The high priest came to do homage to the king. The members of the Sanhedrin also appeared to judge the people, and they took their seats to the right and to the left of the king. At the approach of the witnesses, the machinery of the throne rumbled. The machinery of the throne rumbled. The wheels turned, the ox lowed, the lion roared, the wolf howled, the lamb bleated, the leopard growled, the goat cried, the falcon screamed, the peacock gobbled, the cock crowed, the hawk screeched, the sparrow chirped, all to terrify the witnesses, to keep them from giving false testimony. Like, right, I was about to say I would have fell dead right there, seeing these gold symbols make these noise. Imagine that. Look, hold on. Let me read that again, y'all. Check this out. Look. Okay. Hold on. When the high priest came to do homage to the king, the members of the Sanhedrin also appeared to judge the people, and they took their seats to the right and to the left of the king. At the approach of the witnesses, the machinery of the throne rumbled, the wheels turned, the ox lowed, the lion roared, the wolf howled, the lamb bleated, the leopard growled, the goat cried, the falcon screamed, the peacock gobbled, the cock crowed, the hawk screeched, the sparrow chirped, all to terrify the witnesses and keep them from giving false testimony. When Solomon set foot upon the first step to ascend to his seat, its machinery was put into motion. The golden ox arose and led him to the second step, and there passed him over to the care of the beasts guarding it. And so he was conducted from step to step up to the 6th, where the eagles received him and placed him on his seat. As soon as he was seated, a great eagle set a royal crown upon his head. Thereupon a huge snake rolled itself up against the machinery, forcing the lions and eagles upward until they encircled the head of the king. What kind of throne is this? I have not seen such of the likes with my eyes here in this flesh. Oh, but I would love to see this. Yo, look. Thereupon a huge snake rolled itself upon the machinery, forcing the lions and eagles upward until they encircled the head of the king. A golden dove flew down from a pillar, took the sacred scroll out of a casket, and gave it to the king so that he might obey the injunction of the scriptures, to have the law with him and to read therein all the days of his life. Above the throne, 24 vines interlaced, forming a shady arbor over the head of the king, and sweet aromatic perfumes exhaled from two golden lions, while Solomon made the ascent to his seat upon the throne. It was the task of the seven heralds to keep Solomon reminded of his duties as king and judge. The first one of the heralds approached him when he set foot on the first step of the throne and began to recite the law for the kings. He shall not multiply wives unto himself. Well, we know he just screwed that one all up thoroughly. At the second step, and for all the people, I know ain't nobody here doing it, but I'm just saying, some of them alphabet camps, y'all come here, y'all might be listening to this today, that's multiplying wives into yourself. Y'all think y'all leading the people. What the first rule of the king, even if you're the king of your house, you will say, do not, it is a law for all the kings of Israel not to multiply wives unto yourselves. I ain't said, I'm just repeating it. I'm like the mailman dropping off the message. I ain't even read your mail. I don't even care what's in your mail, but I know simply because he kind of let us read the mail. But we don't tell you we read the mail. We just know. And we watch and we know you become a vagabond, right? But we just hand the message over to you. All right. But it's really illegal for mailmen to read your mail. They ain't supposed to know what's in your box. They just got the address. Go drop it off here, please. I need this to go to him. I need this to go to her. They drop it in your mailbox. They deliver it to your door, whatever. They just messengers. Bring you the message. Okay. Look, okay. I'll go back. It was a task of the seven heralds to keep Solomon reminded of his duties as king and judge. The first one of the heralds approached him when he set foot on the first step of the throne. He began to recite the law for kings. He shall not multiply wives to himself. At the second step, the second herald reminded him, he shall not multiply horses to himself. At the third, the next one of the heralds said, neither shall he greatly multiply to himself silver and gold. At the fourth step, he was told by the fourth herald, thou shalt not wrest judgment or pervert judgment or justice. That's what that means. At the fifth step, by the fifth herald, thou shalt not respect persons, meaning you don't let him off because he got a little bit more money than what he got. He able to grease your palms a little bit, right? But then go back to the previous, thou shalt not pervert justice, thou shalt not take bribes, right? Okay, look, thou shalt not respect persons. And at the sixth, by the sixth herald, neither shalt thou take a gift, right? No, 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 no. Finally, when he was about to seat himself upon the throne, the seventh herald cried out, know before whom thou standest. I'm sorry. Like, my son is clearly upstairs and he called. Like, you know what I'm doing right now. Hold on, y'all. He does not pull the YouTube off. I think YouTube can still see me. He just knocked it off my screen. Okay, Jeremiah, you better walk yourself down these stairs. Look. Thou shalt not respect persons, and at the sixth, by the sixth herald, neither shalt thou take a gift. Finally, when he was about to seat himself upon the throne, the seventh herald cried out, know before whom thou standest. The throne did not remain long in the possession of the Israelites. Sheesh, buddy. During the life of Rehoboam, and Yahuwah said it, during the life of Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, it was carried to Egypt. Shishak, the father-in-law of Solomon, appropriated it as indemnity for claims which he urged against the Hebrew state in behalf of his widowed daughter. When Sennacherib conquered Egypt, he carried the throne away with him, but on his homeward march, during the overthrow of his army before the gates of Jerusalem, he had to part with it to Hezekiah. Now it remained in Palestine until the time of Joash, when it was once more carried to Egypt by Pharaoh Necho. His possession of the throne brought him little joy. Unacquainted with its wonderful mechanism, he was injured in the side by one of the lions the first time he attempted to mount it, and forever he limped. Therefore, wherefore he was given the surname Necho, the Hobbler. Nebuchadnezzar was the next possessor of the throne. It fell to his lot at the conquest of Egypt, but when he attempted to use it in Babylonia, he fared no better than his predecessor in Egypt. The lion standing near the throne gave him so severe a blow that he never again dared to ascend it. Oh no, no, I ain't going up there. Like they all of them crazy. They got all this pride. Now we taking this throne. This is beautiful. Y'all seen this? Go ahead, plug that thing in. Oh, you ain't got to plug it in. What's the magic abracadabra? How it work? Oh no. Okay, let me go on up here. Walking up the stairs and line. Get them right in the side. It's like the ark. Somebody come get this thing. Take it back to the land of Israel. This boy of Christ is killing everybody. Look. The lion standing near the throne gave him so severe a blow that he never again dared to ascend it. Through Darius, the throne reached Elam, but knowing what the others had suffered, he did not venture to seat himself on it. And his example was imitated by Ahasuerus. That was the Queen Esther's king, right? Look. The latter tried to save his artificers, fashion him. Hold on. The latter tried to have his artificers fashion him a like artistic work, but of course they failed. And the Median rulers parted with the throne to the Greek monarchs, and it was finally carried to Rome. The Hippodrome. All right, where we at? Okay, we can read about the Hippodrome, y'all. All right, look. The throne was not the only remarkable sight at the court of the magnificent king. Solomon attracted visitors to his capital by means of games and shows. In every month of the year, the official who was in charge for the month was expected to arrange for a horse race, and once a year, a race took place in which the competitors were 10,000 youths, mainly of the tribes of Gad and Naphtali, who lived at the court of the king year in, year out, and were maintained by him. Clearly, we know Naphtali had to be in a race. Remember, Naphtali himself was swift of foot. He could run across a field, not breaking the heads of grain. That's how fast that boy moved. For the scholars, their disciples, the priests, and the Levites, the races were held on the last of the month. On the first day of the month, the residents of Jerusalem were the spectators, and on the second day, the strangers. The Hippodrome occupied an area of 3 parasangs square, with an inner square measuring 1 parasang on each side, around which the races were run. If we remember correctly, I believe 1 parasang is 4 miles in length, about 4 miles in length. Within were 2 grills ornamented with all sorts of animals. Out of the jaws of 4 gilded lions, attached to pillars by twos, perfumes and spices flowed for the people. The spectators were divided into 4 parties, distinguished by the color of their garb: the king and his attendants, the scholars and their disciples, the priests and the Levites were attired in light blue garments. All the rest from Jerusalem wore white. The sightseers from the surrounding towns and villages wore red. Amen. Okay. The green marked the heathen hailing from afar, who came laden with tribute and presents. The 4 colors corresponded to the 4 seasons. In the autumn, the sky is brilliantly blue. In the winter, the white snow falls. The color of spring is green like the ocean. I don't need to answer that phone. Okay. The 4 colors corresponded to the 4 seasons. In the autumn, the sky is brilliant blue. In the winter, the white snow falls. The color of spring is like green, like the ocean, because it is the season favorable to voyages. And the red is the color of summer, when the fruits grow red and ripe. As the public spectacles were executed with pomp and splendor, so the king's table was royally sumptuous. Regardless of season and climate, it was always laden with the delicacies of all parts of the globe. Game and poultry, even of such varieties as were unknown in Palestine, were not lacking, and daily there came a gorgeous bird from Barbary and settled down before the king's seat at the table. The scripture tells us of great quantities of food required by Solomon's household, and yet it was not all that was needed. When the Bible mentions cover only the accessories, such as spices and the minor ingredient, the real needs were far greater, as may be judged by the custom that all of Solomon's 1,000 wives, arranged a banquet daily, each in the hope of having the king dine with her. Lessons in humility. Great and powerful as Solomon was, and wise and just, still occasions were not lacking to bring home to him the truth that the wisest and the mightiest of mortals may not indulge in pride and arrogance. Solomon had a precious piece of tapestry, 60 miles square, on which he flew through the air so swiftly that he could eat breakfast in Damascus and supper in Media. Where y'all think they got that from? The magic carpet. Solomon. I'm telling you, everything that you see in Disney movies, Marvel, they take it from ancient manuscripts that they done kept hidden from us. Some of them we read now, but all these ideas come from things that Israel did, right? And all the cool stuff you will let us do. Okay, if you can handle it. Solomon had a precious piece of tapestry, 60 miles square, on which he flew through the air so swiftly that he could eat breakfast in Damascus and supper in Media. To carry out his orders, he had at his beck and call Asaph ben Berechiah among men, Ramarat among demons, the lion among beasts, the eagle among birds. Once it happened that pride possessed Solomon while he was sailing through the air on his carpet, and he said, "There is none like unto me in the world, upon whom Yahuwah has bestowed sagacity, wisdom, intelligence, and knowledge, besides making me the ruler of the world." The same instant the air stirred, and 40,000 men dropped from the magic carpet. The king ordered the wind to cease from blowing the king ordered the wind to cease from blowing with the word, "Return," whereupon the wind, "If thou wilt return to Yahuwah and subdue thy pride, I too will return." The king realized his transgression. On one occasion, he strayed into the valley of the ants in the course of his wanderings. He heard one ant order all the others to withdraw to avoid being crushed by the armies of Solomon. The king halted and summoned the ant that had spoken. She told him that she was the queen of the ants, and she gave her reason for the order of withdrawal. Solomon wanted to put a question to the queen ant, but she refused to answer unless the king took her up and placed her on his hand. He acquiesced, and then he placed his question. "Is there anyone greater than I am in all the world?" "Yes," said the ant. Solomon, "Who?" The ant, "I am." Solomon, "How is that possible?" The ant, "Were I not greater than thou, Yahuwah would not have led thee hither to put me in thy hand." Boom! Exasperated, Solomon threw her to the ground and said, "Thou knowest who I am? I am Solomon, the son of David, not at all intimidated." The ant reminded the king of his earthly origin and admonished him to humility, and the king went off abashed. Next, he came to a magnificent building into which he sought to enter in vain, and he could find no door leading into it. After a long search, the demons came upon an eagle 700 years old, and he, unable to give them any information, sent him to his 900-year-old brother, whose eyrie was higher than his own, and who put probable and who would probably be in a position to advise them. But he in turn directed them to go to his still older brother. His age counted 1,300 years, and he had more knowledge than himself. The oldest one of the eagles reported that he remembered having heard his father say that there was a door on the west side, but it was covered up by the dust of the ages that had passed since it was last used. So it turned out to be. They found an old iron door with the inscription, "We, the dwellers in this place, for many years, lived in comfort and luxury. Then, forced by hunger, we ground pearls into flour instead of wheat, but to no avail. And so, when we were about to die, we bequeathed this palace to the eagles. A second statement contained a detailed description of the wonderful palace and mentioned where the keys for the different chambers were to be found. Following the directions on the door, Solomon inspected the remarkable building whose apartments were made of pearls and precious stones. Inscribed on the doors, he found the following three wise proverbs dealing with the vanity of all earthly things and admonishing men to be humble. Number one, O son of man, let not time deceive thee. Thou must wither away and leave thy place to rest in the bosom of the earth. Number two, haste thee not, move slowly, for the world is taken from one and bestowed upon another. Number three, furnish thyself with food for the journey. Prepare thy meal while daylight lasts, for thou wilt not remain on the earth forever, and thou knowest not the day of thy death. In one of the chambers, Solomon saw a number of statues, among them one that looked as though alive. When he approached it, it called out in a loud voice, Hither, ye Satans, Solomon has come unto you. Suddenly there arose a great noise and a tumult among the statues. Solomon pronounced the name, and quiet was restored. He pronounced the name of the Most Holy. He scared him. So he immediately said the ineffable name and everything, right? Because we know that it is that name that saves us all. Not the name a lot of people's out here hollering off randomly. Everybody using that name. If they using that name as a curse word, seriously, and ain't nothing happening for people. All manner of people is taking that particular name and throwing it around, and ain't nothing happening for nobody. That is not the name that we are saved by. No, 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 no. Tootie, hop down. Can you hold her for a second? Get out, Pooh. I'm almost done. Hop down. And I'm sure everybody up here done tried it. And if you were saved, just know it was Yahuwah behind the scenes that actually caused that to be. And not that name that you call. Because we ain't gonna get into it today. But just know, if anything good come to you, Israel, us, our folk, it's because Yahuwah alone is behind it. Even though you ignorantly calling him something else. I just want to let you know. Okay, boom. Let's go back real quick. All right. In one of the chambers, Solomon saw a number of statues among them one looked as though alive. When he approached it, it called out in a loud voice, Hither, ye Satans, Solomon has come unto you. Suddenly there arose great noise and tumult among the statues. Solomon pronounced the name, and quiet was restored. The statues were overthrown, and the sons of the Satans ran into the sea and were drowned. That sound familiar, don't it? Okay, I'm gonna keep reading. I ain't gonna start. Let me just go back though. I'm gonna read it again. The statues were overthrown, and the sons of the Satans ran into the sea and were drowned. From the throat of the lifelike statue, he drew a silver plate inscribed with the characters which he could not decipher. But a youth from the desert told the king, These letters are Greek, and the words mean, I, Shaddad Ben Ad, rule over 1,000 provinces, rode on 1,000 horses, and had 1,000 kings under me, and slew 1,000 horses. And when the angel of death approached me, I was powerless. Asmodeusu. When Solomon in his wealth and prosperity grew, unminded of his God, and contrary to the injunctions laid down for the kings in the Torah, multiplied wives unto himself, and craved the possession of many horses and much gold. The book of Deuteronomy stopped before Yahuwah and said, Lo, Lord of the world, Solomon is seeking to remove a yod out of me. For thou did right. The king shall not multiply horses unto himself, nor shall he multiply wives unto himself, neither shall he greatly multiply himself gold and silver. But Solomon has acquired many horses, many wives, and much silver and gold. Hereupon Yahuwah said, As thou livest, Solomon and 100 of his kind shall be annihilated ere a single one of thy letters. Hold on, okay. I read it this way. As thou livest, Solomon and 100 of his kind shall be annihilated before a single one of thy letters shall be obliterated. The charge made against Solomon was soon followed by consequences. He had to pay heavily for his sins. It came about in this way. While Solomon was occupied with the temple, he had great difficulty in devising ways of fitting the stone from the quarry into the building, for the Torah explicitly prohibits the use of iron tools in erecting an altar. The scholars told him that Moses had used the shamir, the stone that splits rocks, to engrave the names of the tribes on the precious stones of the ephod worn by the high priest. Solomon's demons could give him no information as to where the shamir could be found. They surmised, however, that Asmodeus, king of demons, was in possession of the secret, and they told Solomon the name of the mountain on which Asmodeus dwelt, and described also his manner of life. On this mountain there was a well. Hey, shush, shush, shush. On this mountain there was a well from which Asmodeus obtained his drinking water. He closed it up daily with a large rock and sealed it before going to heaven, whither he went every day to take part in the discussions in the heavenly academy. Thence he would descend again to earth in order to be present, though invisible, at the debates in the earthly houses of learning. Then, after investigating the seal on the well to ascertain if it had been tampered with, he drank the water. Solomon sent his chief man, Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, to capture Asmodeus. For this purpose, he provided him with a chain and the ring on which the name of Yahuwah was engraved, a bundle of wool, and a skin of wine. Benaiah drew the water from the well through a hole bored from below, and after having stopped up the hole with the wool, he filled the well with wine from above. When Asmodeus descended from heaven, to his astonishment, he found wine instead of water in the well, although everything seemed untouched. At first, he would not drink of it and cited the Bible verse that inveighed against wine to inspire himself with moral courage, right? The king of the demons trying to inspire himself with moral courage. Now, I shouldn't drink that. That's alcohol. We shouldn't drink. Boy, get out of here. At first, he would not drink of it and cited the Bible verse that inveighed against wine to inspire himself with more courage. At length, Asmodeus succumbed to his consuming thirst, and he drank till his senses were overpowered, and he fell into a deep sleep. Benaiah, watching him from a tree, then came and drew the chain about Asmodeus' neck. The demon, upon wakening, tried to free himself. Shush, shush, shush. But Benaiah called to him, The name of thy Lord is upon thee. Though Asmodeus now permitted himself to be led off unresistingly, he acted most peculiarly on the way to Solomon. He brushed against a palm tree and uprooted it. He knocked against a house and overturned it. And when, at the request of a poor woman, he was turned aside from her, he broke a bone. He asked with grim humor, Is it not written, a soft tongue breaketh the bone? A blind man going astray, he set in the right path, and to a drunkard he did a similar kindness. He wept when a wedding party passed them and laughed at a man who asked his shoemaker to make him shoes to last for 7 years, and at a magician who was publicly showing his skill. Having finally arrived at the end of the journey, Asmodeus, after several days of waiting, was led before Solomon, who questioned him about his strange conduct on the journey. Asmodeus answered that he judged persons and things according to their real character and not according to their appearance in the eyes of human beings. He cried when he saw the wedding company because he knew the bridegroom had not a month to live. He laughed at him who wanted shoes to last 7 years because the man would not own them for 7 days. Also at the magician who pretended to disclose secrets because he did not know that a buried treasure lay under his very feet. The blind man whom he set in the right path was one of the perfect pious, and he wanted to be kind to him. On the other hand, the drunkard to whom he did a similar kindness was known in heaven as a very wicked man. Oh, look at that. Hold on. Let me go back. The blind man whom he set in the right path was one of the perfect pious, and he wanted to be kind to him. On the other hand, the drunkard to whom he did a similar kindness was known in heaven as a very wicked man, but when he happened to have done a good deed once, he was rewarded accordingly. Asmodeus told Solomon that the shamir was given by Yahuwah to the angel of the sea, and that angel entrusted none with the shamir except the moor hen, which had taken an oath to watch the shamir carefully. The moor hen takes the shamir with her to the mountains which are not inhabited by men, splits them by means of the shamir, and injects seeds which grow and cover the naked rocks, and then they can be inhabited. Solomon sent one of his servants to seek the nest of birds and lay a piece of glass over it. When the moor hen came and could not reach her young, she flew away and fetched the shamir and placed it on the glass. Then the man shouted and so terrified the bird that she dropped the shamir and flew away. By this means, the man obtained the possession of the coveted shamir and bore it to Solomon. Remember, we learned about the shamir all the way at the beginning, right? And it said that it was created for Solomon's day so that he could build the temple, right? But the moor hen was so distressed at having broken her oath to the angel of the sea that she committed suicide. Although Asmodeus was captured only for the purpose of getting the shamir, Solomon nevertheless kept him after the completion of the temple. One day the king told Asmodeus that he did not understand wherein the greatness of the demons lay, if their king could be kept in bonds by a mortal. Asmodeus replied that if Solomon would remove his chains and lend him the magic ring, he would prove his own greatness. Solomon agreed. The demon stood before him, and with one wing touching heaven and the other reaching the earth, snatching up Solomon, who had parted with his protected ring, he flung him 400 parasangs away from Jerusalem and then palmed himself off as the king. Now, right there, we're going to pause and we're going to see what Asmodeus. I know, right? Like, Solomon, what did you think? Why would you give out of all people, out of all entities, your ring to Asmodeus, the king of the demons? I'm going to prove to you, King Solomon. I'm going to prove it to you how wise we are. Go on, let me hold that ring real quick. Let me hold that ring, King. Let me hold that ring.
You must have thought they were stupid or something.
Solomon was bereft of all his wisdom the moment he crushed them locusts for some booty. If you missed the other day, you got to go back and find out. He crushed them locusts in his hand, and he did it in one of his many women. I'm gonna be nice today. One of his many women said, "You got to do it in the name of Molech too." All I got to do is this. All right, let me stop. Okay, am I sitting here like Mom? No,
Mom.
don't.
Mommy. Mom.
Okay, y'all. Look,
Mom.
so we're gonna pause right here.
Mom.
It's getting real good. Y'all gonna find out what happened to King Solomon as he was flung from his throne by Asmodeus, the king of demons. If y'all watching the horror movies, or they ain't got to be real horror movies for real, y'all have heard the name Asmodeus. It is the real name that they use as the name of the king of demons. Now, before I would be kind of scared to even use that name, but I know what my power lies, so I'm just reading. I'm sharing it with y'all. Okay. All right, y'all. So we're gonna pick this up tomorrow. It gets real good. So we're gonna see what happened to King Solomon as he begins to pay for all his many sins and breaking Yahuwah's commands, right? All right, y'all. So that is it for today. Let me put my markers on this page. 435. All right, y'all. So we read 1 Samuel 7, 8, and 9. We hopped over here in the Legends of the Jews, reading more about King Solomon. Ooh. Okay, I'm like, you sitting right in front of me. Why is your phone calling me? Okay, hold on, y'all. And we picked up in the Legends of the Jews on page 431, and we went all the way to page 435.
Come on, girl.
Today, she's still playing the game with your phone. It is Monday, March the 22nd, 2021, day 108 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets. Another 3-year consecutive day count, day 777. Yes, 777. All right, y'all. Remember that is without the Sabbath days added into the count, or the feast days, Sabbath days added into the count, y'all. Remember, Passover is coming up this weekend. Sabbaths have changed this moon cycle to Sundays. Move this. Hey, chill. Okay, yeah, I'm bringing up the what you call it? The blessing, y'all, can be found in Numbers chapter 6. Verses 22 through 27. Remember, the first 21 verses, y'all, is the Nazirite vow. Remember, a man or a woman can take the Nazirite vow. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, On this wise, ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, May Yahuwah bless us and keep us. May Yahuwah make his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. May Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon us and give us his peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. All right, beautiful people. No questions here on Facebook. Let me see. I saw a couple. Yeah, Solomon got.
Yeah. This he got.
Yeah.
That's how everybody in heaven looking at this nigga when he did that. Yeah.
For some 5 minutes of pleasure, Solomon done messed it up for himself. Shoot, not for him. Everybody. His son, look, what's even more crazy, he got to experience more of the throne than his son did. Yes, baby girl.
You might take the trash out.
He did take the trash out.
He didn't take the trash out.
Bella, that's school trash. That's not our trash.
Okay, but anyway, his son only reigned for a couple years, right? And it got split, and all the kingdom, everything was taken. So, but y'all, let's see. Okay. Great lesson and analysis for today, as usual. Lessons man can learn from it is to resist. Lessons man can learn from it is to resist any temptations by the name of the Most High Yahuwah. Yes and amen. Okay, y'all. Oh, you said something earlier. Look, when I was reading, I didn't see this comment, Aliyah. Look. He said, could have been why the world is trembling and trying to do cunning things to keep us distracted, so that the seeds of Yisolili or Israel won't run judgments on them like the Most High foretold our ancestors. Yes, you got it, 100%, hands down. They are keeping our people so don't press no button, poop. Don't do that. So preoccupied with entertainment and all kinds of stuff, fighting over stimulus checks, that if they would get on one accord and realize what's going on, we could literally, you know what, run them play. Oh, wait a minute. I just had a flashback or something. No, it was a dream I had. Soon as I was about to say it out of my mouth, I was about to say run them plagues. I had a dream about plagues last night. Okay, no, seriously, it just came back to me while I was about to say run them plagues.
You didn't even write it down, did you?
I did. As I was saying it triggered it. A lot of times that's how I remember some of the dreams I have. If I'm talking, I'll say a word and it'll trigger a dream that I had the night before. Okay, y'all, I need to think about that and go write that down. But yeah, it's time to run them plagues. Look, okay, y'all, that being said, to the baby already up, and I got to get going. We got some work to do this morning. I love y'all. I will see y'all back here bright and early. Yes, you do need a little bit of lip gloss. Okay. See y'all bright and early in the morning. Thank y'all for hanging out with me today while I stay in my post. All right, y'all. We out here. We got to go. Don't knock my glass over. Come to them. All right, y'all. Love y'all. See y'all in the morning. Peace.